Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today I'm going to be talking to you about all of the interludes for 2023 here on NA. Now again, I did a video on all of the strengthenings. This video will not be as long because there are not nearly as many of them. Also, if you're confused as to the difference between what an interlude is versus what a strengthening is, just understand that a strengthening is an upgrade that doesn't have any sort of story associated with it at all. An interlude, on the other hand, is an upgrade that has accompanying story for it. Now again, these can happen in actual story chapters in the main story, or again, typically in the actual interlude section under your Chaldea Gate. They'll get their own little side story there. So that's the major difference between an interlude and a strengthening. Don't get confused when people talk about NP interludes or skill strengthenings. A interlude can be any sort of upgrade, either to your NP or to your skills. Same thing with a strengthening, it can be any sort of upgrade either to your NP or your skills. It just happens to be that an interlude has story accompanying it and a strengthening doesn't. So let's talk about our interlude campaigns that we're going to have this year on NA, particularly these three right here. So what's interesting about this is, as of this point right now on JP, they have not had any more interlude campaigns. These three that you guys are getting this year on NA are the last three that you will ever get. There will be no more interlude campaigns until JP starts to do them again. So that means for all of 2024, there will be no interlude campaigns. That doesn't mean you won't get any interludes. It just means there won't be a campaign full of them. And actually, still to this date, it's roughly the same thing with strengthening campaigns as well. The only time that we're pretty much guaranteed to get a strengthening campaign every year now is at the anniversary. So a lot of this is them trying to do things when it's more timely to do it in the moment during an event. That's it. So that's why you guys only see a couple more of these remaining. Don't worry about it. It doesn't mean they're not doing them. It just means they're not bundling them all together. So let's talk about our first one here, Interlude Campaign 16. Now this one's going to happen roughly in June. And again, this one's going to be a little bit precarious due to the whole possible potential for a schedule shift on NA. This is going to happen roughly right before NA's anniversary. So I do think they'll probably try to work this one in a little bit more with the timings of the Lost Belts. Maybe they'll fit it in like the second week of a Lost Belt, maybe when people have already rushed through it and kind of maybe don't have something to do. But regardless of the timing of this, I think you guys can still probably expect it in June. It's only just a matter of when in June, and that one I don't know. Now, I'm not going to talk to you guys about the actual story for any of these units. I am going to talk to you about the units, though, that do get upgrades here. So the first one, as you guys can see here, is going to be Astolfo Saber. He gets an upgrade to his first skill here, his charge skill, which already was a 20% charge per turn for 3 turns. Now, I've talked about these types of skills before, and typically the way that they work is, again, if you're looking at it from a 3-turn perspective, this means that at the end of turn 1, you get 20%, at the end of turn 2, you get 20%, and then at the end of turn 3, you get 20%. Well, if you're trying to 3-turn a node, this means that at the end of turn 3, you don't care anymore because you're not firing off another Noble Phantasm. So functionally, this means that Astolfo had 40% charge over a 3-turn duration in the sort of, again, 3-turn capacity that he would normally operate under, unless you're trying to use him in a challenge quest or something with a longer parameter for its node. Now, again, this is also going to remove his own debuffs. A cleanse is certainly welcome in some cases, especially for challenge content, but this skill gets upgraded. And what it does is it gets upgraded to have a flat amount of NP charge at the beginning. And this is actually kind of interesting because we saw this similarly with Amakusa's strengthening that he got this year. So what's interesting to me about this one is this one's happening before JP's anniversary. This means this was before the whole mana loading and a pin system upgrade. So I can definitely see where this is useful, but this is still a little bit of an odd one. This strikes me as a skill that was designed to help him work with something like a normal K-scope. And interestingly enough, you can definitely use it to that capacity and not invest in his mana loading down the line. But this does seem a little bit weird now in perspective because I'm sure they knew they had the pin system coming at the time. But what that does mean is, again, maybe you can start him out at like 60% charge and, you know, have his maxed mana loading and then use this skill, and that'll bring him up to full on turn 1 under his own power. But maybe that's not going to be how you're going to want to try to 3-turn something. Maybe you're not even trying to 3-turn, so it doesn't necessarily matter in that grand scheme of things. But certainly having more charge is always welcome. It's never a bad thing. Similarly here, then they also give him a crit star bomb of 20 stars. Now, I remember talking about this at the time when they upgraded, and just kind of saying I was sort of disheartened because a little bit about what it felt like they were trying to do with the Astolfo Saber was trying to make Astolfo more like Okita. And you're going to actually hear me bring this back up later in this same video, because it's really funny how they took 2 single target limited quick sabers that were roughly pretty different in how they operated and what they did, and they keep trying to bring them closer together. And I'm not really sure why they do that. And if anything, I would think they would be trying to keep them apart so that they have points of differentiation, points where you could say, hey, I'm going to use this unit and not this unit, but maybe, hey, maybe there's still another reason to use that other unit at times. So this has been a little bit of a weird thing for me comparing these two over time, but it definitely seems like they're trying to bring them closer together. Still, no matter how much they try to do that, they'll never get them to be the same unit. Their card performance and decks and everything like that are just fundamentally different. So I'm not really sure why they're trying to do that too much, because honestly, I think, especially in this case, I don't think it helps Astolfo Saber in a lot of ways. Trying to make Astolfo Saber more like Okita sounds like a good idea in premise, but doesn't necessarily work out in Astolfo's favor, because Astolfo is not a star generator with really good card performance most of the time. What Astolfo Saber does do is have really nice MP damage, and definitely has a little bit more nice utility for stuff like challenges again. But still, Okita Saber is still another really good option for you in a challenge environment, because of the capacity to min turn with that really good card performance. So it feels like that's partially what they were trying to do here, was give the crit star bomb and allow that to kind of be remedying one of Astolfo Saber's sort of low points. But still, it is what it is. I'm certain that people that have Astolfo Saber will welcome this change. And so again, it's another nice upgrade for him. The next one up that we had here on the Interlude campaign was actually Canis. So just to talk about her here, this is going to be an upgrade to her second skill. Now, one of the things I knocked about Canis when she first came out was just that, well, I felt that she hit decently hard for a 4-star. She was limited, and we had numerous other options in that class already. And the problem that she had basically was she wasn't a looper. She was buster focused. She didn't have charge. And ironically enough, it's around this time that basically, I think right before this, Lalter had gotten her strengthening that gave her 20% charge. So sure enough, what do you think's going to happen here? So we're going to take Halberd of Pillaging right here. That is a on attack activate buff of 3 attacks for 3 turns. Again, it's going to increase your normal attack for 1 turn whenever you do attack, and it activates before the damage goes out. So again, that was an attack up of 20% for 1 turn, and you can get it for basically your next 3 attacks over 3 turns. So nice in that regard. And then it's also going to inflict attack down on the enemy on top of that. But then what they upgrade it to is, hey, it's still all of that, but now she's also going to gain crit stars every single turn, 15 per. Definitely really nice for her there. Definitely trying to help her sort of combat Lalter. So again, you can kind of see how they're trying to almost draw analogs between the 2 units rather than trying to keep them separate and unique again. But still, another really, really nice upgrade for her, and something that's going to help Canis hit hard, as she already should. And then on top of that, they're also going to give her a flat 20% charge. Now, you might be thinking 20% charge, that's not that much. It's not going to help her too much. This is really nice. Having 20% charge in her case, where she had none before, means now she can 3 turn. So basically, you can set her up with a double Oberon setup, and she'll actually be able to 3 turn. The way that works is once Oberon comes into the game, any unit that has at least 10% charge in their kit can 3 turn. Yes, you do have to start them out at 100% charge somehow, but as long as they can do that, and then they can get 10% charge after the fact, then there you go. They're able to 3 turn thanks to double Oberon existing. So again, I highly recommend trying her out if she's a favorite unit for her or for you, because she will be someone that can hit hard, especially on turn 3 in a double Oberon type of setup. But regardless, I still think she's a fun unit and a great character, and this is definitely a welcome buff to her. And then our last upgrade of this interlude campaign is going to be Salieri. So Salieri's been another interesting one over time here. He gets an upgrade to his wildfire skill. Now this is a skill that I've often pointed out is like, it's got great duration at 5 turns, but kind of stupid that it's 3 attacks. So it's limited. It's not a like on-demand thing, but hey, it is strong at 30% defense down. So that is really, really good. The problem is that 3 attack limitation, just kind of, if you're trying to say like loop with Salieri over the same enemy, means you better hope not to hit him with your other car. Oh wait, you're probably going to hit him with something else. So it kind of limits things unless you're just outright killing and moving through waves. And if you're killing and moving through waves, then you're not carrying this over to the next wave anyway. So that is definitely one of the issues I have with this skill is it looks really good, but then you start to think about it and you're like, it's kind of weird. So they end up upgrading it and they end up giving it critical star absorption for 1 turn as well by 2,000%. It's not quite the 5,000% I'd like to see on an Avenger, but 2,000 is a heck of a lot. And that will definitely help him pull some stars to him. So really, really nice upgrade there for a class that just naturally sucks at soaking stars. And then on top of that, it's also going to increase his crit damage for 1 turn of 100%. So rare to see a unit just suddenly get 100% crit damage out of nowhere. Typically you'll see that be an upgrade to an already existing crit damage modifier, but that is really, really good in his case. So this can certainly help out one of his bigger issues, which is damage overall, especially given the fact that he is a story locked 3-star. Kind of hard to get your hands on more copies of him in certain circumstances. So this can really, really help him, especially in terms of firepower. Now, that's going to be it for this interlude campaign. But then the next one that we have here is going to be interlude campaign 17. Now, again, this one is slated to arrive sometime late September, late September, and then last through October, basically. This is a fairly long one, but the interesting thing about this is this should be happening, I'm going to say, after our summer event for the year. So definitely you're going to already have a lot of these strengthenings that happened at anniversary and even some of the ones going into summer, but really, really nice for stuff like this. Now, as we look at the interludes for this campaign, you guys can see already, this is kind of a pre-Gouda Gouda campaign is what this one's going to be, because your 2 upgrades right here are to Okita and Okita Altar. And the reason I talked about Summer being prior to this is because Summer 6 has Okitan Saber. So again, Okita Altar's Summer version. And Okitan Saber is a really good unit that has a lot of nice sort of quality of life that I've said this before about her, that Okitan Saber is the version of Okita that both Okitan and Okita wished they were. So again, looking at that, I think you'll see as we go through it, but let's talk about the first one here, OG Okita. So she's going to get an upgrade to her second skill here. Basically, it was just weak constitution, which was a 1-turn critical star absorption for 1,000. Really nice skill. Ultimately, though, I'm sure a lot of people wished it had multi-turn duration. That is sadly not what they gave it. I really wish that they had given her a 3-turn soak, but I understand she's already pretty insane for her card performance, so they probably didn't want to make her more busted in that regard. That being said, they did, because they basically ended up giving her even more crit damage. So she now has 50% crit damage for 1 turn while she's absorbing the stars. So good synergy there. It's the turn that you're soaking the stars, so having it also have that is nice. But again, one of the biggest things and best things about this is going to be the fact that she has 30% charge now. So that is basically what we started to see there, is Okitan had 30% charge, and then Okitan Saber got it, and all of a sudden Okita is now getting it as well to sort of keep pace with the other forms that she has. So again, another really, really nice upgrade there, and frankly, it's kind of crazy that it's all on a 5-turn cooldown for her. So that's going to be really nice for even challenge content and stuff like that, not just one-off farming. And then again, the next one here is going to be Okitan, and this is going to be the upgrade to her Boundlessness, her 3rd skill here. So it started out as NP damage for 1 turn and 1 attack of evasion for 3 turns. Honestly, my biggest issue with this was just, hey, you're tying a steroid to a survival skill, and it is not a very lenient survival skill in that regard. Yeah, it has nice duration at 3 turns, but it only has the 1 attack, so you're pretty much doomed to try and use it for the NP damage. And what they upgrade it to is they start giving her NP damage for 3 turns now, and it was the 30% as always. Then it's going to overcharge the NP by 2 stages 1 time over 3 turns. So if you NP any time over 3 turns, that first NP will be overcharged by 2 stages, which in Oki-Tan's case is again going to mean more buster resist down on the enemy. So really, really nice there, is that's going to up it from 30 to 40%. So very, very hefty buster down on the enemy for carding after the fact. And then again, they're also going to increase the evasion now for 2 attacks 3 turns. So definitely helping out a lot more in the survivability. And a lot of this is very similar to what her summer form had. So this was sort of a quality of life improvement where they made the summer form better, then went back, revisited the original form, and gave it some of the love as well. So I thought this was a really, really nice upgrade for Oki-Tan, especially when you consider that Oki-Tan's going to be one of those units that with the buster system, she's really going to come out of her shell. Thanks to Kayan Sky and Oberon, she'll become a 3-turning unit, a unit that can hit decently hard for an alter ego. And again, a lot of this stuff's going to be on a low cooldown and allow you to overlap it, get it back twice in the same 3-turn cadence. So really, really good for Oki-Tan there. But that's going to be it for Interlude Campaign 17. Then we get to our last Interlude campaign of the year, which is going to happen sometime early December. Now, in this one, there's only 2 upgrades again here, and you guys can see it's going to be Chiron and Galatea. So let's talk about Chiron's here. This one's going to be his NP Interlude, and it is a nice one for him because one of the biggest knocks about Chiron, he's always been a good support unit. But the big issue with him has been that he doesn't really have the firepower in a lot of cases. So he's already someone that could remove defensive buffs and deal damage, but then they basically end up upgrading him and allow him to, again, do all of that, but now have a super effective modifier to enemies with the Earth attribute. You guys will remember that from the strengthening video that Ereshkigal is going to get a super effective modifier against Earth enemies as an AoE unit, but now you're going to have Chiron here as a single target unit also having this. So this is a really, really nice upgrade for him. Definitely gives him a way to stand out against some of the other archers, and certainly a welcome one as we don't get a lot of upgrades to single target archers over time. So really, really liking that upgrade for Chiron. Now, again here, your next upgrade is going to be Galatea, like I said before, and this is, I had actually talked about this one in the strengthening video, basically when I was talking about Vlad. And so one of the biggest knocks about Galatea had often been that she had that triple buster deck. And you might be thinking, well, Cad, that's a triple buster deck. Why is that bad? You've got so much damage that you can put out with that. And you're right. But the problem with this is Galatea is an arts NP unit. So she didn't have a lot of easy time refunding and looping and getting back to her NP. So that was one of the knocks kind of against her, is that the deck didn't really allow for good card choice a lot of the times. So what they do is they revisit this with Aphrodite's Grace, and they basically take a skill that grants self-regeneration buff for 3 turns that is going to recover the party's HP by 2,000, and then also remove the party's debuffs every turn. So this is already a really strong, nice survival skill for the party. And it's going to then add on to it an on attack activate buff for 3 turns that allows her to charge her own NP gauge when normal attacking with buster cards by 10%. This should stack with Koyanskaya's skill. This is going to be very similar to like Muramas's as well. So basically anytime she uses one of these 3 buster cards, again, very similar to something like Dioscuri that also has a similar effect on their quick cards. So anytime that she uses one of these buster cards, she is just going to get 10% charge out of it. So that's really going to help sort of curb that issue with being able to get back to another NP, and certainly make you way more comfortable using the buster cards in her deck and not necessarily having to prioritize the other 2 types there nearly as hard because of that. So really going to help her pop off both in damage and refund then as a result of that. So this really helped address one of the bigger issues, I'd say, with Galatea. So I thought this one, when they came out with it, was a very, very solid buff. Now then, Galatea is basically going to be our last upgrade for Interlude Campaign 18. But there are 2 more interludes that sneak in throughout the year. One of those is going to be coming here in Lost Belt 6. And basically what's going to happen with this one is they're going to take Caster's disengage skill here, the debuff, cleanse, and heal, and they're going to change it into a skill that has a really big book written about it. So allow me to explain this to you. So this is going to increase his own attack for 3 turns by 30% now. That right there by itself, really strong steroid addition to his kit. However, it's also going to grant him a sacrifice delayed buff for 1 turn. That sacrifice buff will basically after a turn's duration. So it's going to grant him guts. And then it's also going to, whenever the guts is activated, charge his NP gauge by 80%. So it gives him guts. And if the guts gets popped, he gets 80%. So then what's the last part of the skill? 1 turn later, he's going to sacrifice himself. Now, he won't die because the guts is going to pop him back up. So what this is going to do is this just means that you're putting a guts on him, and then a turn later, he self pops the guts and then pulls himself back up with 80% more charge. This is all on a 5-turn cooldown. So Caster is a unit that can start from 0% charge now and work with just double Koyanskaya for that purpose. And part of the reason for that is, again, because he has his first skill with the upgrade that already grants him 30% charge, also on a 5-turn cooldown. So it is very easy to, on turn 1, say, pop Primeval Rune. And, again, your 3rd skill here. And then basically what's going to happen is you're going to charge up with Koyanskaya. Actually, you don't even necessarily have to pop Primeval Rune on turn 1 if you don't want to. But basically what you're going to do, in fact, no, you shouldn't pop Primeval Rune. What you should do is you should just basically end up... Wait, do you? Hold on. I'm trying to think about the exact order here. This is rare for me because I don't normally have to sit here and think about this. But yeah, I believe what you do with Caster is you're just going to go ahead and pop Primeval Rune if you want. Yeah, you can do it with the append. The problem is most of the people on JP don't have the append. And that's because they didn't have coins when his banner came out with Morgan Le Fay. So that was certainly an issue. 1 skill with append or MC battery. Yeah. So basically you could use a mystic code to give him the charge if you wanted. Or again, what I like to do here is basically just again run the 300%. So remember, he gets 80% charge on turns 2 and turns 3 because of this, because it's a delayed charge, right? So the way to think about this is he can get 30%, and we know he can get it because it's on a 5-turn cooldown on any of these turns. So it doesn't really matter because functionally you're not going to need that much to get him going. So basically, yeah, you can do 30% here on turn 1. You can basically slap on a Mystic Code ability that gives him 20% charge, and then you can do one of the Koyanskaya skills. From there, he's going to proc 80%. You could do his 30% again there if you so choose, and it's going to happen, but I would tell you to instead do a 50% charge from Koyanskaya so that you can trigger this skill again right here and get it back. Because essentially how this one's going to work is you're going to pop this skill on turn 1. You're going to have the 5-turn cooldown. You're going to use the Koyanskaya skill, which is going to get you -2. You're going to then go a turn, and that's going to put you at only 2 turns remaining on the cooldown. During that turn, you're going to use another Koyanskaya charge skill, which is going to be another -2. So then you're going to pop this skill again on that turn, and that's where you'll have it back basically for the next turn already. So really, really nice cadence right there, and you can really do a lot of stuff with him. And if you're worried about using the, non-damage dealing Mystic Code, remember, he's someone that basically, because he can start from 0, you can use Black Grail on him. Similarly, a lot of you guys should even have just an NP1 of him from story. Even that NP1 can hit hard in that system. It might not be your, end all be all neutral looper, but he does work, and he does work very, very well. So having the ability to have that 80% charge and pop him back up, really, really solid. Certainly you can make it even easier if you have his mana loading unlocked and maxed. And for those of you guys on an A, you probably will, because you already have coins. So if you roll for that first Morgan Le Fay banner and get him on that, there you go. You will get coins from rolling him. So as long as you don't totally whiff and end up getting no copies of him, you should be fairly good in that regard. But still, the updated the countdown to 6 with Septim, I see. But again, so that is a really nice upgrade for Ku. That allows him to operate from 0. That allows him to again turn into a literal monster for a 3-star farming unit for casters. So he can actually outdo quite a bit of even some of the 5-star units now, thanks to that upgrade in the right set of circumstances. So definitely don't overlook this one. But that's not the last upgrade we get. The last upgrade we get is to our girl Mash. I am not going to tell you what that upgrade is. I'm just going to tell you that Mash gets one. Don't worry about it. You'll discover when, where, why, how. And again, it is a nice upgrade, so I'm sure you guys will appreciate it. But that's going to be it for the interludes video here. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys for the next one.